Justice for Olivia Walker.
All right, picture this. You've got a serious legal case, right? But all the physical, scientific evidence, it's just gone, destroyed, poof. Then, years down the road, some digital files just show up. So, the huge question is, can a digital ghost really stand in for physical truth? That's what we're digging into today. Let's get right to it.
So really, what does happen when all you have left is that digital ghost? And look, this isn't just some thought experiment. We're going to walk through a real-world case where this exact problem is front and center.
So here's the core of the problem. On one hand, all the actual physical evidence, we're talking blood, tissue samples, stuff you can actually test in a lab, it was all destroyed, gone. Then, on the other hand, years later, these photos in a search warrant just pop up out of nowhere. You can see the problem, right? It's a massive legal showdown between real, verifiable proof and a digital picture.
Okay, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the difference between real truth and its digital shadow. Then, we're going to get into why a photo isn't always proof in a courtroom. After that, we'll learn how to follow the digital footprints. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with why our justice system has to have truth you can actually verify.
All right, let's dive into our first big idea. Truth versus the digital shadow. And trust me, it's so important to get that these are two totally different worlds when it comes to evidence.
Okay, look at this breakdown. It's super important. Biological evidence, blood, tissue, that's physical stuff. You can test it. And just as important, someone else can test it again to make sure the science is solid. So, destroying it, that's a huge legal problem. But digital evidence is a whole other beast. It's just a representation, a picture, a document. You don't test it in a lab. Instead, the whole game is about authenticating it. The question becomes, can you prove without a doubt that this digital file is the original untouched version?
And this really brings the point home. Think about it. A toxicology report. That's just a summary. It's an opinion based on the evidence. Losing it is one thing, but losing the actual blood sample it's based on? Whoa. That's like losing the truth itself. A piece of paper can never, ever replace the real deal.
And the law is incredibly clear on this point. This quote from the legal filings says it all. Toxicology reports are not a substitute for this physical evidence. It just doesn't get any plainer than that. You can't swap out a real testable sample for a piece of paper. Why? Because the right for the defense to do its own independent testing is like a fundamental part of our legal system.
So, if we've established that a digital file isn't the same as physical proof, what does that mean for something like a photograph? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of why a picture isn't automatically proof, and we'll use the specific rules from Georgia law as our example.
Okay, so the very first hurdle any photo has to clear is called authentication. It's pretty straightforward, really. You can't just walk into court and say, hey, look at this picture. The law says the person showing the photo has to prove two things. First, that the photo is actually what they say it is, and second, that it hasn't been messed with at all.
All right, next up is the second big rule, and it's called the best evidence rule. It sounds fancy, but it's actually super simple and really powerful. Basically, it says you have to produce the original file, not a copy, not a screenshot, not a printout. The court wants the original native file because every time you copy something, you risk losing data or introducing changes. They want to see the source.
And it's not just about legal rules, There are some really basic scientific reasons why a photo by itself just isn't enough. Think about it. A photo is just a snapshot, a representation. It can't tell you a cause of death. You need a lab for that. It can't tell you what someone was thinking, their intent. And maybe the biggest one of all, we all know how easy it is to tamper with photos or just take them completely out of context.
Which of course brings us to today's world. With AI and Photoshop and all these crazy editing tools, creating a fake image that looks totally real, well, it's scarily easy. And that is exactly why the history of a photo, its digital trail, has become even more important than what the photo actually shows.
So if this digital trail is so critical, how in the world do you actually follow it? Well, that's what we're jumping into next, how to follow those digital footprints.
The single most important tool here is something called an audit log. The easiest way to think about it is like a file's personal diary that it can't lie in. Every single time that file is created, opened, changed, or even copied, the system automatically records who did it, when they did it, and on what device.
It is the absolute backbone for proving a digital file is legit.
And there's this really powerful analogy that's used to describe why this is so important. A missing audit log is like an erased security camera. Think about that. It doesn't necessarily prove someone is guilty or innocent, but it makes finding the truth pretty much impossible. If that log is gone, you have no way of knowing what happened to that file from the moment it was born to the moment it showed up in court.
So what does a clean audit trail actually look like? Well, it's like a story. Step 1. The file is created by Officer Daniels at 8:03 p.m. Check. Step 2. It's accessed the next day by the DA's office. Got it? Step 3, and this is the big one, no modifications logged. Perfect. And Step 4. It was exported to the defense. See that? It's a clean, clear, unbroken history. That's what you want to see. So that's a clean chain. But what about a dirty one? A suspicious one? Well, that's when you find things that just don't make sense. Like, here's a crazy example. You get a file that's supposed to be evidence from an event back in 2020. But when you look at the file's own data, its creation date is in 2025. I mean, come on. That's not just a red flag. That's a 5-alarm fire.
Now here's another super powerful tool called a hash value. Just think of it as a unique digital fingerprint. It's a long string of numbers and letters created by a mathematical algorithm. And here's the cool part. If you change anything about that file, I mean a single pixel in a photo or just one letter in a document, that digital fingerprint completely changes. It's basically a mathematical way to prove for sure if a file is the original or if it's been touched.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together now. What does all this tech and these rules actually mean in the real world? It's time to talk about why our justice system absolutely demands truth that you can actually verify. So, at the end of the day, for a piece of digital evidence to hold up in court, the bar is set incredibly high. You need that original, native file. You need all the metadata that comes with it. You need a witness to vouch for it, and it needs to be backed up by other evidence. And, of course, you have to prove it hasn't been altered, usually with those hash values. The bottom line is simple. A picture by itself is just not enough.
And this really is the ultimate takeaway. When that physical, scientific evidence is gone forever, that digital trail isn't just one piece of the puzzle. It becomes the only trail left to follow. The integrity of that digital chain of custody is everything. If that chain is broken or even just looks a little sketchy, then the evidence itself just can't be trusted, period.
And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. In our world of AI, deepfakes, and easy photo editing, is a picture all by itself ever enough to prove something is true? It's a huge question the legal system is wrestling with right now, and frankly, it's something we all need to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Here is the part of the case that no one can explain. A new search warrant suddenly appeared, after 5 years. But Olivia had knowledge of a different warrant from the very beginning. Then an email arrived saying a warrant had been found. Both the DA and the defense said they had never seen it before. Law enforcement claimed the warrant was hiding in magistrate court. But DeKalb County has recently processed evictions for residents clearly living in Fulton County. The newly appeared warrant answered the exact questions Olivia had been asking for years. Questions that could not have been known at the time of the search. A warrant cannot vanish for 5 years and then reappear fully typed. The existence of 2 different warrants raises serious questions about authenticity, timing, and due process. This is why Olivia Walker is fighting. And this is why evidence matters. #Justice for Olivia Walker.